It's the Blue Jays this week, vodcast, and for the first time ever, hopefully it goes well, we are on Skype with Mike Wilner, who is at Chase Field in Arizona. Mike, what's the temperature there in the desert?
Right here at the ballpark, it's a beautiful 77 degrees, which is, I think, about 22 or 23. Outside today, the weather forecast is 108, which I believe is just about 5 or 10 degrees less than the surface temperature of the sun. It is unbelievably hot out here, but at least it doesn't kill you like Texas heat does because it's so thick. Here, I mean, it really is. They say it's a dry heat. It's a dry heat in that when you step outside, it doesn't punch you in the face like it does in Houston or Dallas, but it's still pretty bloody hot down here.
Yeah, it's a dry heat that makes you dry heave if you're out in it for too long, I imagine. It looks like a
Nice
beautiful ballpark.
though, huh? What do you think?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. Tell us a little bit about the ballpark.
This isn't one of those fakey backgrounds behind the people. This is actually the ballpark. I don't know what's going on the field right now. I don't know if either team is hitting. We're doing this before Wednesday afternoon's game, but it's a really nice park. It's got the big giant scoreboard that you can see right behind me, but on either side of it there are separate boards that always have both teams' lineups up. Over my right shoulder there's that other little scoreboard that during the game will show both pitchers' pitch counts, balls and strikes throughout the entire thing, which is also pretty cool. And there's the swimming pool in right center, of course, which I think is over there. But I could totally be turned around and not know which way is right field and which way is left field. So what do I know? For all I know, the swimming pool might be behind my head. But it's a pretty cool place. With the roof closed, it's very comfortable, and it feels. I've been in a few new style retractable roof stadia this year. Houston was closed all the time. It felt weird. I don't know why. I think it was because of that huge window in left field. It feels like you're not really seeing outside. But there are windows here, too. They're just not as big. Safeco, I was never in for a game while it was closed. It closed once during the postgame and looked super cool. Closing, like a flying saucer landing, close encounter style. And Miller Park closed looked pretty nice, too. This one's pretty nice, definitely, especially for a closed ballpark.
Yeah, hopefully you get to jump into that pool at some point before you leave Arizona. But you're running out of time, Mike, so maybe get in there before the game ends as we're talking to you before Game 3, that three-game set against the D-backs. It's September, so let's talk about the September call-ups and a couple of notable omissions. No Marcus Stroman, no Sean Nolan. But Ricky Romero does get the call-up. Not going to start, though, apparently. What do you make of the additions?
Well, not going to start now, but who knows? I mean, Ricky's here because they want to see what their investment is up to. He didn't have a great year with Buffalo at all. And, if he wasn't on a long-term deal and if he hadn't been an all-star 2 years ago, he probably wouldn't have got this call-up. But they want to see. They're paying him $15 million over the next couple of years, so they might as well give him a shot. And it wouldn't surprise me if he got a start at some point a little bit later on. J-Hap has faltered lately, and there's no reason not to stick somebody in there. Stroman and Nolan, I think we talked about last week, and really weren't expecting either one of them to get called up. Stroman, so they maintain the flexibility of not having him on the 40-man roster. And Nolan, I think, because, they wanted him to go do well in AAA. He did, and go sit off that great year and start next season in Buffalo with a shot at making the rotation. I was surprised that Drew Hutchison wasn't called up. But they said they don't have innings for him. And he was behind Drabek and Perez as far as those rehabbing guys were concerned. So I guess I'm not really surprised by anything except the lack of Hutch. I kind of thought that he and Drabek would combine to take a spot in the rotation and piggyback with each other every 5 days.
And Mike Nikias gets the call-up as the third catcher, even though A.J. Jimenez was on the 40-man, doesn't get the call-up.
That's the thing. A.J. is coming back from Tommy John surgery, and he had to he started to have a little bit of soreness in his arms, so they were happy to back off. And Nikias for third catcher is a perfect third catcher.
Marcus Stroman, we mentioned he didn't get the call-up. He was outstanding in his final start of the season, pretty much outstanding all season long in Double-A. He is not on the 40-man, and the clock hasn't started for him. He's going to go to the Arizona Fall League. He had some interesting comments on Twitter, Mike. I don't know if you saw him. Just said that he was disappointed to be overlooked, and then he deleted those comments. But he's a guy, if you go by merit alone, probably deserves to be here. But he's just a year removed from being drafted by this team, although he was given some assurances that he would be given every chance to be in the major leagues last year. I guess getting popped for performance enhancers for 50 games doesn't help your stock all that much. But what do you make of the decision not to bring him up in particular? And if you're going by merit, he deserves to be here over Ricky Romero.
Well, except that he did what he did in Double-A, and he hasn't pitched in Triple-A yet, and it's not the same thing. And the Blue Jays, I think, are starting to realize that. And I think that Alex Anthopoulos has had thought before that really, if a guy's performing really well in Double-A, you might as well give him a shot and see what happens in that. Sean Nolan came up out of Double-A, Drew Hutchison came up out of Double-A, Henderson Alvarez as well, and Nolan got knocked around. It was only one start. Hutchison got hurt. Alvarez was okay, but still there was a lot of work to do in his game that he didn't get to do in Triple-A, and that probably was because they were scared of sending these guys to Las Vegas. And now they don't have to worry about that anymore. Stroman had a fantastic year, and yeah, I saw the stuff he said on Twitter, and he changed some of it and said, they said he was too small to start and he wouldn't be able to hold up and all that stuff. And after he throws like 8 innings of whatever, 2-hit shutout with 11 strikeouts in his final start. So he held up just fine, but he hasn't done it in AAA. But the more important thing, I think, of why Marcus Stroman didn't get the call was because they didn't want him to be on the 40-man roster all winter. They didn't want that getting in the way of potential additions and losing somebody else that they didn't think they wanted to. You have to make a decision about somebody, and all these 40-man decisions just now when they designated Mauro Gomez for assignment. Fine, chances are he wasn't going to be a factor, and they only signed him to play in Buffalo, but you're supposed to have 40 guys you want in your system on that 40-man roster. And everybody who's on the 60-day disabled list has to come off of it in the offseason. And it just adds one more guy that they have to worry about. And I'll bet you, looking back, they regret putting Sean Nolan on the 40-man roster because now they have to keep him on it all winter and also worry about losing somebody else when this is a guy that could have spent the winter off the roster and add him in the spring and then you get to have an extra body.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of decisions the Blue Jays have to make next season. The offense, though, has gone berserk in the desert, and Edwin Encarnacion, he's the subject of our Ford Leaders in the Field segment.
Ford Leaders in the Field. Presented by the 2013 Ford F-150, Canada's Player of the Year for 47 years running.
Yes, Eddie is ridiculous in Arizona at Chase Field, and I wonder if the D-backs getting the monster of all trade offers for the offseason because he absolutely loves it there. Home runs in 5 straight games as we head into the final game of the 3-game series against the Diamondbacks. Man, he is just... I didn't think he would be able to do exactly what he did last year, but he has been spectacular this season, and especially in the desert.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they trade him to the Diamondbacks, he'd hit 100 homers, right? Because you got 81 for your home games, and then you only have to worry about 20 or so on the road. It really is amazing what he does here. I wasn't here last time. He owned this place in the 3-game series. I think he had 5 homers in the 3-game series last time. This time it was 1 Monday night in the 9th inning and 1 Monday afternoon and 1 Tuesday night. But the Tuesday home run was just stupid. I mean, as high as it was far, maybe even higher, and he just destroyed the ball. He loves hitting here, and yeah, I don't think anybody expected that we'd have a repeat of last year's numbers, but it looks like what's going to stop him from getting to 42 home runs again? And here's a 950 OPS or something like that. He's consistently great, and about the only one who's been consistently great start to finish, just like he was last year. And you look at when Alex Anthopoulos is choosing to strike with long-term deals, he hit the jackpot with Bautista, and he did the same thing with Edwin.
Before we wrap this up, Mike, want to get your take on wins at this time because the Blue Jays now have won 3 straight series, 3 against teams that are in playoff races, the Yankees especially, but the Royals on the periphery of a playoff race, same with the Diamondbacks. Unfortunately, they play in a division where the Dodgers win 9 out of 10 for 2 months in a row. But what do you – a lot of people talk about it being fool's gold wins this late in the season when a team's out of the race. What do you make of the Blue Jays playing some of their best baseball right now?
You know, I don't know. I'm just enjoying it, to be honest with you. It's nice to see them playing well. It's nice to see the infield defense holding up well. Ryan Goins has really added to that just superbly, and see the double plays they're turning and just how smooth he is, and how it's brought the whole infield kind of up on a defensive note. So, yeah, they've won 7 of 9 as we speak right now. And what does it mean? I don't know. People will say, oh, well, it's just another Toronto team turning it on late in the season when it doesn't matter. And the truth is, it doesn't matter. You know, no matter how many games they win the rest of the way, they're not going to make the playoffs. But what it does is it leaves a good taste. It reminds them that they're actually good. And especially since it's Dickey and Burley who are helping out and pitching well and doing that, it's kind of a jumping off point for 2014, a year in which we expect this team to be a lot better. And we're getting to see Kevin Pillar and Anthony Gose and Moises Sierra playing pretty much every day. And they're doing all right, not spectacularly, but they're doing all right. And Goins is really putting himself in the picture. I don't think that for a second they go into this offseason thinking, all right, this guy's going to be our starting second baseman. But right now, you say, well, we can't get somebody. He makes all the plays. He'll get on base enough. He can hit 9th. As long as that's the only weakish spot in our lineup, Ryan Goins can play second base.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for making those not so easy double plays where he just is able to get off great throws, even as a second baseman. We know his number 1 position is shortstop. He's Mike Wilner. You can follow him on Twitter at Wilnerness590. You can follow me on Twitter as well at BennisSnet. Well, what did you think of the Skype? Seemed to work all right. We'll see you next week.